Yo, it's Rob here from Shonen Showdown, and we have a very interesting topic to discuss today. Obviously, Invincible Season 3 just ended, and we saw a TikTok that really was breaking down some questions that we need to tackle. So I had to call in Miss DC herself, Fantastic Frankie, and my GOAT, Anime Sundays.
I'm here, man. I'm here.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna react to Manga Mama Perry's TikTok. There's a lot of questions in here, so let's just take a look.
How is Mark stronger than a pure-blooded Viltrumite? Since I just finished season 3, after watching his battle with Conquest, I do not see any feasible reason he should have won that battle. Yes, he had help. I always understood Viltrumites that they got stronger as they aged, and clearly they got stronger on a logarithmic scale. And they pretty much said Conquest was stronger than Omni-Man. And I understand that Mark leveled up since fighting Omni-Man, but I still don't think he could fight his dad and win because of the experience. And so how did he lose? So I've been diving into this, and I came across an interesting theory. They believe Viltrumites don't have adrenal glands. And in this theory, they assume that because they don't have environmental factors that can cause stress, therefore hence causing the ability of adrenaline to kick in, Mark adopting that from his mom's side as a human, they believe that what's ending up happening is that when he feels moments of desperation, anger, like anything to kick his adrenaline in, he gets stronger, which is what surprised Conquest, because Conquest said, "Why are you getting angry? That's not going to make you stronger." But it in fact did make him stronger. But I also wanted to understand at a base level, how strong is a Viltrumite? You know how Oliver is progressing really quickly and aging quickly, and therefore his powers are coming quicker? Is Mark understanding his powers quicker? Is Mark fighting more strong battles than Viltrumites are? Because Viltrumites are pretty much the top predator of the food chain, and so they only fight themselves or weaker. And then I was trying to compare with like Kryptonians and Saiyans, and there was a lot of interesting back and forth conversations, and so I'm pitching it to you. Who do you think is stronger, a Kryptonian, a Saiyan, or a Viltrumite? Keeping in mind of the fact that like Kryptonians have their big weakness with kryptonite and red suns. Saiyans can go Super Saiyan. Kryptonians and Saiyans both have special abilities, but Viltrumites have very strong base level abilities.
Shout out Perry.
Yep, shout out Perry. There's a lot to discuss in there. But first, should Mark have defeated Conquest? How did he defeat a pure-blooded Viltrumite? And she spoke about the theory that Mark has an adrenal gland as a half-human, half-Viltrumite.
I think the first thing that I thought while I was listening to that video is Mark won because Kirkman wanted him to win. And at the end of the day, that's how comics are, right? Whoever the person is supposed to win is going to win, and they're going to find a loophole. I don't think that this is a spoiler, but Mark is not a half-blooded Viltrumite. He's half-blood, but the Viltrumite DNA is so strong that he ends up being like a full-blooded Viltrumite. Like, that's something that Nolan also mentions.
It is kind of technically a spoiler, and I actually found that out myself kind of as a spoiler through researching the comments after Perry's video. But that is why they're essentially saying that Mark comes to such high level of power later in the comic as well. But I think even just for now's conversation, I always felt that he had the literal ability to hit hard enough to kill a full-blooded Viltrumite. I think maybe at first it was questionable, but after he got a lot stronger in the beginning of the season, I felt like, okay, we can maybe see him actually at least being able to deal some final blows. The only reason, in my opinion, that Conquest died is because he kind of wanted to. He literally was tired when Mark caught him with the headbutt spree. It's kind of like he could have got out of that, bro. He really could have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't want to count out Cecil putting Mark under some intensive training, right? That was like one of the major things where I was like, we also have to remember Mark got so much stronger throughout this season. It definitely looked like Conquest was coming in as the Broly of the Viltrumite.
Even if he's strong, Conquest got to be like 500 years old. No raw talent is going to compare with him, one, being that strong and being that old and battle tested. But to your point, Rob, he was playing with his food, right? He was having fun. If he wanted to kill Mark, he would have crushed his head immediately.
Which also speaks to like a lot of people are leaving out Adam Eve, who had a crazy glow up at the end of the season. And I think like her ability on paper should be as broken as Engstrom Levy, honestly, with like how broken her abilities are. So if she's able to really like put Conquest in a compromising position, because I think he was playing around with Mark, but there was a moment where it looked like Adam Eve kind of had him a little bit on the ropes a little bit.
He definitely was severely. I feel like he got a little bit nervous when he got hit with the first blast. That's why he was so pressed. Like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and kill her right now.
Yeah.
And that way I can, me and Mark can continue BSing around. Like Frankie said, he should have lost.
I'm glad you brought up Adam Eve because I've made many videos about it. But like Kirkman historically has issues writing women, and I think Adam Eve is a great example of it. And people talk about like she's nerfed and like her powers are always getting barriers because she'll be too powerful. But I think it's the contrary. I think if we made Adam Eve as formidable as she should be, then it highlights how strong and terrifying the Viltrumites are, right? If she turned his hands into flowers, right? He had a hand that was an organic material. Why didn't she make that disappear, turn that into air? That mental block that goes away where she's able to blast him and redo her body, that's not something that she ever gets to do, where she's able to manipulate these people and maybe they're just too fast for her. But there's more she could be doing, and I think if they made her more powerful, then the Mark win would have made a little bit more sense.
Eve has been a big carry just in general this season. Like she's been kind of carrying Mark ever since they started dating, in my opinion.
Got him a job, a business.
Right, as I'm saying, like, save his life.
Yeah.
Save the world, pretty much. Like,
Right. Would it be unfair to say that Mark has somewhat of a comparison to Gohan in the sense that when you look at Gohan, who's a half Saiyan, he grew up with having this hidden potential that Goku always believed in, and we obviously saw him unlock it against Cell. And I think this is in part talking about the adrenal glands, or just the fact that your rage, your emotion can help make you stronger. Conquest clearly stated during that fight that getting angry will not make you stronger, but in the case of Mark, we see that being challenged. So is this adrenal gland theory really a thing, or is it just the fact that he's just as much of a Viltrumite as Conquest is?
I think it's closer to, it gives him the motivation. Like when I hear the adrenal gland thing, it's like, now I'm desperate. I'm not necessarily stronger, but I think the biggest thing about Mark is that he's holding himself back, right? He's not fighting to punch you through your face. He's just fighting you to stop you. And that's what Nolan's biggest critique was when they were on that planet. And I think that adrenaline at the end, like, I have to kill Conquest, is what gave him that edge. Not necessarily like him actually having an adrenal gland that gave him something more, or like rage that I feel like Saiyans, it's closer to a magical thing.
With anime, it's almost like a literal, you could quantify that when they get upset.
Yeah,
MF's power levels go crazy. It's almost, it's not just a Gohan thing. Like it's a common anime trope, and that's because I think it's the style too. Like,
yeah,
I think sometimes like main characters in anime it's heavily focused around their emotions more than anything. Whereas comic book characters, I think it's more focused like on their experiences. You know what I mean? With Gohan though, you could really kind of make an argument that half Saiyans, and I've seen this argument too, are sometimes stronger than full-blooded Saiyans. They learn faster. It's only because we have Goku as our peak Saiyan, and he's obviously just the Saiyan of legend. You know what I mean? Like Goku, the Prince, and then the actual legendary Super Saiyan are the only 3 full-blooded Saiyans left alive. When you compare them to half-blooded Saiyans or etc., it looks ridiculous. But like, you take a Nappa and a Goten's whooping on, bro. Yeah. You feel me? You feel me? Them learning Super Saiyan just because they seen it is ridiculous.
Because they saw, they weren't even taught it. They just saw it, and they did it during a time of peace.
Which alien race is the strongest? So we're gonna rank Kryptonians, Viltrumites, and Saiyans from strongest to weakest. For me, I'm already sitting in the topic of Saiyans and Kryptonians have to have the real conversation here. I think the Viltrumites, as powerful as they are, a lot of the feats that we are seeing from the Viltrumites are literally frame 1 feats in Dragon Ball Z.
Also, I'm not gonna hold you. The Viltrumites to me seem fragile. Like they be punching through each other's stomach and things like that. And like, you're not gonna see Kryptonians punching through each other. They're steel. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Cybermen. Superman are literally planetary. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If you're talking like the little grass type alien things that the Saiyans are using to help them out are planetary. Now you're talking about a Viltrumite and you're seeing them, you know, destroy a town, and it's like, that's cool and all, but I don't think they're seeing any of the greater Saiyans. Now, I've heard conversations about people saying, all right, if you take the main Z fighters, of course they're going to beat the Viltrumites. But if you take the rest of the Saiyan race, you know, the lower class Saiyans, maybe if you say Raditz, Nappa, maybe early on Bardock, the Viltrumites are still winning. Now, I disagree with that, by the way. I still think the Saiyans can still win, especially because if there is a full moon outside, that's grade ape.
I agree. I think the magic aspect of Saiyans will always trump everything. The Viltrumites are rooted in realism, so they're never gonna get that second, third chance that we see Goku and other Saiyans get. Kryptonians is still not magic, right? It's tied to the sun in the way that they internalize that. Even though there's magic in the world, they're not magic. Saiyans are magic. I know there's a whole bunch of things about their magic.
Right.
He gets beat up and then he says, you know what? I have a different form. That's magic.
I was gonna say that I think the strongest Kryptonian is stronger than the strongest Saiyan, in my opinion. So whatever form that you have Superman at, where he's either in cosmic armor or he's Cat Superman, well, that's a robot. But I feel like the strongest Kryptonian, when they shown like comic versions of Superman at his peak, I take that over the strongest Saiyan. But in terms of like race to race, I do kind of agree with Frankie on that sense that like the Saiyans can pull a lot of kind of BS out there, you know what I'm saying? There's not really any Viltrumites that could see Frieza, you know what I mean? And then when it comes to Kryptonians and Saiyans, I think it definitely depends on what type of Kryptonians you have, right? If Zod pulls up with his army and it's like, okay, I got an army of fighters and like they're gonna get into a yellow sun and it might be really crazy, then yeah, you could see some Saiyans in trouble because of, you know, a lot of those Saiyans are still not anywhere near like a Superman level character. A lot of the lower ones are.
There are versions of Superman, like you said, Jared, whether it's, you know, cosmic armor or maybe even Superman Prime. Seeing what those forms have been able to pull off are ridiculous. But if we're talking like race to race, again, Saiyans have options where, you know, they can either fuse together, you know, become Vegeta. There's options there, right? Is that enough? Like, if people still say Superman beats Goku, but now we're talking a race to race thing where Goku and Vegeta can now fuse, maybe even Broly and Gohan can fuse. Like, the Saiyans have that option. Do you think it's still possible if it's a race to race battle between Kryptonians and Saiyans that Saiyans can still get the W, even though they have a juggernaut like Superman on their team?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like I said before, when we first started, it's up to the writers. Manga art writers go that extra mile. You know, they take that little extra step. I think the thing about Superman is he has too many contingencies. He got to be in the yellow sun. You can't have kryptonite near you. But also, a lot of the feats that we see around Superman, Goku be doing for fun. Goku fighting Beerus. He's instant transmissioning throughout this fight. He's teleporting. He's equally as fast. Sometimes you can't even see them move. I think that we're really discounting because of the level of camp that DBZ is versus the realism that we feel with Superman and the legacy.
I think the Saiyans would have it. Like Frankie said, the biggest problem would be like any distance outside the yellow sun that's past Earth is gonna get hectic. And then of course, I mean, the Viltrumites, they only about 50 left, not 49 now.
49!
And Conquest was one of the strongest ones. Who knows what Cecil's going to do with them? Obviously, the comic readers are probably going to see something. But if Cecil is able to flip Conquest into a battle bot for their side, I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. I think Conquest is too powerful. I think this is a bad move. But if it does happen, I mean, yeah, the Viltrumites, it's looking super, super rough for them. It looks like we agree that Viltrumites are the lowest. We're going to put Kryptonians at 2. Even though Superman is the juggernaut, right? Superman is the one guy where it's like there's an exception to the rule. But if we're talking a race-on-race battle, we think that the Kryptonians will be the second strongest and Saiyans will still remain the strongest, which is good. How strong are Viltrumites just in general? Like, how strong can the Viltrumites truly become?
The strongest Viltrumite is stronger than Battle Beast, right? That's not saying a lot.
Whoa.
Hold on.
Battle Beast is really strong.
Battle Beast is really strong, but
that's the show's fault.
That is the show, because I'm like, he probably is crazy, but like when people ask about me versus him versus Superman, I'm like, I see Superman.
Superman would be huffing and puffing, but
against Battle Beast for real?
Battle Beast,
I don't know. That's hard.
And I
Battle
can't
Beast
spoil
is tough
it.
though.
There's a character that Battle Beast fights that is the guy, but they're fighting non-stop for a week. Battle Beast is that guy, and I made a video about it. But the thing is, Invincible fans are so weird that even when we're giving they just tell you to shut up and eat But the fact that y'all are like Battle Beast is mid shows me that I was right, that they're not
I don't think
highlighted.
he's mid. It's just it's like
He should be terrifying. When he pulls up, you're like, what is this guy doing here?
Yeah, his first portrayal was him whooping on Mark. And we're like, well, everybody whoops on Mark.
Everybody does, everybody.
You know
Mark is...
Now, of course, like, when he's ready to fight Viltrumites, you're like, okay, yeah, like, we see he caught the W against the Viltrumite, like, he ain't no hoe. He's floating in space. But, yeah, you're right. The show, like, again, I don't read the comic. I just only get the little spoilers that I get. And I know the top one that they have, he's supposed to be Omni-Man. It's like, yeah, go sit down, bro. You feel me? If you're saying Battle Beast would give Superman a hard time, and then their number one is that much stronger, am I saying their number one could be Superman? That's a conversation I probably couldn't give you the answer to.
Nah, like I said, they seem fragile. And there's so many contingencies we have to consider, right? The Viltrumites fight to kill. Superman fights holding back. So there's things like that we would have to discuss on, like, what are the parameters of this fight?
Most of the time when me and Rob do any, like, 1v1, you kind of give them, like, the Battle Beast versus Oh Boy scenario. They're in the middle of nowhere. It's just them and them. Whoever makes it out. You feel me?
Right.
And I feel like if you do that with Superman, and he's obviously with a yellow sun, I could see him beating. I could see him beating Oh Boy.
It's hard for me to ever see Superman fighting all out like that. Like, and that's what makes it so hard to scale him. Like, people are like, well, if he did, I'm like, he would never. He would never. Even if there's no one to be hurt.
You would probably have to take like a Injustice Superman, right? Another
and the whole point is that's not Superman. Piccolo could take these niggas. Viltrumites.
Viltrumites. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I agree. Maybe Krillin. Krillin is super.
Yo, wait, Jared, hold on, wait a minute. Because again, like we said, Cybermen are planetary. Obviously, you know, Viltrumites have way better IQ and stuff like that, so that would help out. But Krillin does have access to the Krillin
is master. He's a master in fighting too. People forget that Dragon Ball Z started.
Maybe a lot of the Viltrumites, I think Krillin can beat, maybe not the top brass, but like Krillin is still a problem.
I still think the problem is too, though. Like, even though I will say they're not as durable, like Frankie has said, as other these superior races we see in fiction, but they are really good at, like, I would say, like, being lethal, and they hit hard and they hit fast. And we know that Krillin also is not that durable sometimes. That's why I was like, it could be rough on bro.
True.
But honestly, if we're scaling, he's just as fast. He's fought worse people. Like, we see him as a bitch because we're comparing him to Saiyans.
Right. But then again, remember when Krillin was fighting against Goku, they're having a little sparring session. Goku went into Super Saiyan Blue.
Yeah.
But you remember,
you know what I mean? Which is crazy.
You remember we had that conversation though. That Goku could control how much power he puts in blue, and that's why it was always a controversy about
why go blue.
I'm not saying Krillin's equal to blue, by the way. He's not equal to blue, but that was still...
like a lot of. We had the conversation. A lot of fandom was like, well, you know, Goku can control how much energy he puts into blue. So when he was doing it with Krillin, it wasn't like the same when he was fighting Jiren. And I'm like, I agree, I understand, but I do agree with what you're saying. If he had to go blue, that it should automatically put Krillin in a tier. That we gotta put some respect. We gotta put some respect on.
Even at the lowest level of blue, it's still blue. Is what I'm saying.
Yes, that's what we're saying. Right. Right.
Absolutely. Piccolo definitely though too, because Piccolo is strong.
Orange Piccolo.
And they love to rip off limbs. Piccolo is growing that shit back immediately.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, it looks like we've covered everything we need to cover. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys show love and follow them on all their socials. They'll be down in the links in the description below. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.